Thank you. I wish to also join in congratulating Planner Kagema for the good presentation that he made. And I was particularly fascinated by some statistics that he gave about Kenya having, at first I think he indicated about 70% of us being involved in agriculture. The percentage could be higher. All of us feeding the nation. Yet we are, unfortunately, a highly food insecure nation with many of us involving in agriculture. India, 30% feeding the nation. I'm not very sure, or not very certain about India's food security situation, but I would imagine it could be better than ours. And the one for the US, I think, fascinated me a lot more. 2% of them feeding the nation. That speaks of a very high level of efficiency. But I believe it will be more than just the numbers that are involved in farming. It could also be about the land tenure that Wakili talked about. Because I think, and I want to suggest that the land tenure system that the colonialists bequeathed upon us is faulty, and that this could be the reason why we are suffering this much. You know, private land ownership. In their own countries, there is no private land, or there is private land ownership, but because of what they call the laws of primogeniture, the land passes from father to son to grandson to in that generation. So you find titles that are still 500 years old. Here, if you follow a title over a period of 100 years old, you'll probably have moved from 100 acres to fractions of an acre. So is there a possibility that as a country we can come back to the drawing board and change our land tenure system and perhaps develop a policy for land consolidation and perhaps to limit land ownership to sort out this problem of land fragmentation? Or have we gone too far into saying that we are irredeemable in that regard? Then the second question is, of course, both Planner Kagema and Wakili, you could take it both. A hypothetical community A in a county B have trust land, customary land that they have used for grazing over the years. And at a certain point, the state moves in and unilaterally grabs that land from the community, which they have been using as grazing lands since time immemorial, the land which was initially registered as a trust land. And then the state develops an institution there. And this is not a school or a health center, but the state develops a prison there. And it's instructive to know that this is a wetland. Is there a possibility that redress can be obtained for this hypothetical community? Thank you.
Thank you, our President. Please, I want to take only two more questions, Jacinta being one, and the one more remaining. Oh, sorry. Keep shouting in case you see me focus on the elders. This is our behavior. That's how elders behave.
The chair of the session.
Yes. After Jacinta, I'll take Wakil. Well, yeah. And Abigail and
Wellington.
Oh yes, that one.
Chair, you'll allow me to break protocol because I have to leave. But my question goes to Tito.
Okay.
Tito, it's a discussion we had yesterday, but it's a discussion that is live to us. They are urban farmers, and these farmers are doing big things. I am sure in your small urban neighborhood, there's somebody who's keeping like maybe even up to 20,000 chicken, whether for eggs or for broiler, for meat. There are some who are doing the big time daily farming still in their backyard. My question is, in the digital was it digital farm capture or whatever? Who captures this urban farmer? In which database does he exist? Or is there a way of capturing? Thank you.
Tito, you got that? How would we capture the Wangokus? And the Kenchiks? Hopefully not. That's a mega structure.
Thank you. Yes. My name is Abigail Walaka. My question is in relation to the functions of the National Land Commission. And one of the core functions is to manage the public land on behalf of the national government and the county government. We have faced several challenges where we are having a lot of public land which has been used on different purposes far from the ones that exist in the PDPs, and even I've seen some counties struggling on their own on how to recover such lands. Some have been developed by private persons. So as NLC, what are you doing? And do you normally, that's part one, what are you doing to ensure that you partner even with the counties which seem to be struggling on their own to recover what has been lost over time? And two, do you normally have copies of PDPs? Because some approvals are done once they have been received from the county government, from some officers who may not have followed the procedure, but still when they reach there, even if something is not in the PDP, you still find that that person has been, the land has been allocated, yet you ought maybe to stop it or to advise accordingly when it comes to public land. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get to Wellington.
Okay, thank you. This is Wellington Sindan from Bungoma. I think mine goes to the senior planner. Number one, I think it will have been very nice or very good for this team to listen to you in terms of the status of the National Spatial Plan, because it's from there that others are anchored to. That's number one. Number two is, and I want to agree with the moderator, the issue of scaring can also be a good way of ensuring that these county spatial plans are prepared. I'm taking it from this perspective. In this nation, all counties had a county integrated development plan in the first phase of devolution. And the reason was very simple, that without the CIDP, there was no way you are going to access funds from control of budget. The only question that we ask ourselves is, why prepare an economic plan without placing it in space, and then you are accessing funds? So you are accessing funds to take them where? Because it's supposed to have a CIDP is supposed to be speaking on a spatial plan, because the spatial plan will be able to place the CIDP in space. So in the first term of devolution, and you have seen the statistics, people received money, they took it back in the air. The second phase, again, the same. So, and then we are in third, we are not even halfway of implementation. Then the last one is, I think as planners, this is just my suggestion, we really need to look at it, we need to look at it in a different perspective when it comes to plan implementation. When you move across this country, there is this, I can call it, there is this notion, or there is this opinion that is coming up, and they are seeing like plan implementation is for the Department of Fiscal Planning. But the truth of the matter is, a plan prepared is touching in all departments. And therefore, the Department of Lands, once it has come up with a plan, it's supposed to, when in that particular plan, a section in terms of on roads or in transport is supposed to be a chapter that's supposed to be taken off by the Department of Roads. Areas to do with agriculture is supposed to be a section that is supposed to be taken off by Department of Agriculture, so that as they budget, they also becomes a tool to guide them in terms of justifying their budgets. Thank you.
Thank you. We stop Kagema's questions to that level because we still have the day is not on our side, isn't it? Let's now pick Madam Carlos' questions, so that when it comes to answering, I want to sit down and sit forever.
Yes, my name is Alando. I have a question to Caroline. And in your presentation, you mentioned about these procedures. And something interesting came to my mind. In the recent past, we've been having county governments advertising for surveying and planning. And my understanding, up to this far, probably I can learn something from this meeting, is that one needs to prepare a plan subjected to the approval processes. Once that is approved, then surveying comes to confirm this. Now, when these survey and planning assignments are normally floated out there, it is expected that some control points are established. What I'm wondering is, when we establish these control points on urban boundaries that have just been delineated as planning boundaries, are we not already beginning surveying when we've not even prepared the plan and approved it? How should we go about this, bearing in mind the procedures that you mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you. May I have one on this side, one on that side for Carlo, please. Pande hii moja, pande hile. Even that is too much, eh? Washauliza. Carlo, you are carded that time. We got you clear. Can I close that point? We close that. Okay, I open the door now for Mr. Tito's questions. I'm foul related. Yes, Karibu.
Thank you very much. I have two questions for Mr. Tito. The first question is on the pathways that they are currently focusing on with the youth and women access to productive resources. Unfortunately, the youth are still not interested in agriculture, even with the efforts that we make. What mechanisms is FAO working on just to entice the youth in agriculture? One of the areas is technology, which is the digital that you've really mentioned. But even with that digital, when it comes to different areas of the value chain, they are not still interested. So maybe it would be good to hear from you. The second one is on the coordination, which you've raised as a key challenge with different stakeholders. My dilemma is different organizations have different working cultures. How can that be addressed? Because it could be one of the reasons why it becomes very difficult to coordinate. And then again, in the same line of coordination, the extent, the different sectors, not necessarily, you know that agriculture is actually related to many of the sectors, talk about water, talk about health. But you realize that when policies are being drawn in agriculture, sometimes the different sectors are not adequately involved. So at the end of it all, like we are talking about fragmentation of land, in the rangelands, you find we are talking about increasing food productivity, and you are clearing land for agriculture and irrigation. At the end of it all, there are other land use practices that are not taken into consideration. How can this be handled? Thank you.
That was a question to Tito. Another one, before I close that window. Yes, our president, and then our registrar. Oh, I hear even the bench as a question for the bench after them.
Thank you. My question to Mr. Tito, a quick one, is with respect to food systems transformation. There's the model that you presented here. What constitutes the baseline upon which the transformation is pegged? Would we be looking at traditional food systems vis-a-vis the modern chains, value chains of food production? Then secondly, in Kenya we have had two very recent bills. One is Bang Bin's bill. It's called the Ndengu bill, which sought to place limitations upon production of farming of Ndengu in general. Then we also have the horticulture I believe the Sabina Chege bill, the one that seeks also to place limitations upon production. And now, with respect to food systems transformation, yet we see a legislative system that seeks to place roadblocks on production. How is this transformation to be negotiated in such an environment of, changing systems? Thank you.
Thank you. Then we go to Registrar. The Registrar.
Okay, thank you. The question I had was on coordination, but it has been asked. But when he was doing his presentation, he's talked about urban agriculture versus peri-urban agriculture. This is just a comment for all of us. I think we focus so much on urban agriculture, we forget peri-urban, and then I'm asking myself, what about now the real agriculture? Is there a way we can be able to differentiate the three when we are doing our planning? Because peri-urban agriculture also in a way plays its own role when it comes to food security. So maybe as planners, we need to look at that aspect where urban agriculture, peri-urban, how are we handling peri-urban, and then now the real agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you. That was, yes. Next to her is a question. Please shout yes. In case you have, I don't see you. Don't allow to be shut out.
Yeah.
After her, we have the next to the registrar. She has the mic.
Yes, my
kwanza. Then you will be last, so we have to continue.
Okay.
Yes.
My question to Tito is, as an expert on food security, probably I'm thinking you have an agricultural background, and I do not know whether you have your own KISIP as agriculturalists or your own LSK. Because what I have observed is that during public participation for any form of planning, the agriculture voice is completely silent. Okay. What is the problem? Because you are in government, you are in the cabinet, I'm just assuming, or you are in FAO, there are planners there. How come, even if it is a municipality, all this planning is going on, but agriculture, which affects our lives, just like health, seems never to be on the table? Thank you.
Yes, let's have the last one so that we can go to the speakers.
Yes, my concern is on the commercialization of land. I think Tito talked about that, and I'm worried about which is this land are we commercializing, because if we do commercialize all land, then there's a danger of disenfranchising the people who own our people, who may not compete with multinationals when it comes to buying land. So how then what safety nets do we put in place? First is, which land are we commercializing? Number two, how do we put safety nets to make sure that our people are not disenfranchised by multinationals? Thank you.
I beg to close that page of questions, please, so that we can listen to the panelists for the answers to our questions. I still am of the opinion that the window for the QR code is still open. Please, if there's anything that comes in between, don't go home with it, throw it to the QR code procedure, so that the KISIP executive can pick it and make it an agenda for us in a digital format. Am I communicating? Yeah, thank you. And then I give Mr. Kagema this chance to give us highlights on the matters that have been raised by the plenary. Karibu Kagema. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senior Joyce. Without much ado, I think I begin by thanking you for the very good synopsis you have done of the highlights of the presentation, generally the way they were done. I think after our lunch, you were able to remind us what we talked about, and that was good. Now, Senior Pranambare, he just walked out. The question was on, that's not a question, a comment. Actually, thank you for the compliment. Very much appreciated. You also noted that NSP and all the other higher level policy document have a connection to the planning we are doing at lower level. And the moment that is not happening, then something is very wrong. So the document, incidentally, all those documents that are very dear to us, very important, they are the ones we have taken time to prepare. And as I observed earlier, Kenyans, we have the brains. Those documents have taken care of food, agriculture, and food security in Kenya. It's not that we are lacking in all those areas. So when it comes to the issue of now coordinating, that is what is missing, and more importantly, implementation. That's why you see our very own food basket are suffering fragmentation. It doesn't mean that the government or even the doer themselves, those in charge, are not aware. But what is it that is driving us? What is moving us to still sit and watch as we are degrading those food baskets? The risk we are, visiting upon ourselves is unimaginable. Senior Pranambare also talked about the challenge we are experiencing as NLC, because obviously I know it came out very clearly. There is the budgetary constraint. And that is also related to what is happening among the planning authority themselves. Because look at any county, what is the percentage of budget that go to planning? I need not to really look at, all of us, and most of us have interacted with the counties. The governor will not put money to prepare that paper, whatever they call a kartasi or drawing or map, because that's how they look at it. So the budget is a problem towards planning. Is it us? Are we the problem? Are we not changed? Do we need to, that gospel, the importance of planning. I don't know what style we need to adopt, Caro, so that we can all understand and agree. That is the beginning. And there is even those basic saying that once you don't plan, you plan to fail. Hata useme mara ngapi, still we will fight the governor, we put money elsewhere. We talk about doing a piping of water from some place to another source, unplanned for that matter. Instead of putting it, giving it to a planner to design a water system that is sustainable and it can help that area for a long time. So we have issues. Now, he said, Mr. President, thank you very much also for the compliment. I think the estimated statistics I gave you, I gave on the population, farmers population ratio. That is what I wanted us to imagine what we are doing. But that's the reality. Look at it. Sometimes when you look at the statistics, they give it in terms of farm population, in terms of how much land is owned by who and all that. But we're talking about somebody practicing farming against the population you are feeding. In Kenya, we are joking. And we are still right there where we begin. When you talk about subsistence survival. As a population, when you begin, everybody tries to look for food, even those traditional days. But we translate from there to become more specialized in certain areas. And what I was saying that in Kenya, we need to look at farming as a profession. So, Mr. President, you are either in planning or you are a farmer. All of us tunakula ugali kutoka kwa shamba zetu. That's why we are missing it. But I mean, that is something that is transformation that is needed. The moment, like in transport itself, unless you have public transport that is efficient, all of us will have to move to the road in the morning, use our own private vehicles. But the moment you make the transport efficient, we forget about driving ourselves. So it's the same with the food. As long as you are assured you go to a market or it will be delivered to your doorstep, you don't go farming. You leave that brother of yours to become the one who is farming in that place and become the expert. And that ties very well with what we are calling a fragmentation of land. because it is this same thing that mentality that is fueling subdivision of land. I want to go back and also have that piece of land there. Whether I use it, meaningfully or not, but I want to have a share there. Well, the hypothetical community, interesting. Most likely it has lost land. But I look at it from two angles. There is the issue of ownership here. Because that land, if it was maybe existing as a wetland, you can see from the laws we have today, when you have a wetland, that's a natural formation. It is a user in itself, even if the plan has not marked it on the plan. So when somebody wants to change that, that's a problem. The other thing is about if it's a wetland or a grazing area used by a community, it belongs to the community. So even if it is a state, the law prescribes the manner in which the state can take that land. So if at all the state went ahead and did a prison there or any other institution and did not follow procedure, on our kiri, it can be recovered, even from the state. I mean, even an individual can recover that. Yes, yes. Yeah, Abigail, I think you are talking about the function of managing land, public land. That is the function of the commission, sure. But then you are saying you now find it is put under use that was not planned for. And I think, Wakili, you described a lot of those things in your matter, whereby of late, in the courts, we have seen a lot of support to planning. And for sure, planning fraternity, we must wake up around this time because the law is so much supporting us, the work we're doing. This was not there before. Did you, Senior Joyce? The court, you not come to the side of plan. They used to say, as long as there is a title, that's the end of it. A right registered, that's the end of it. But now, it is talking about the route. And the route here is the plan. So where that public land has been put into another use that was not in the plan, you can question it. And that can be, addressed again. When it comes to PDP, if I got you right, we as NLC, we are recipient of PDP or Part Development Plan from either the county government or the national government for implementation in terms of issuing letter of allotment and so forth. So the custodian of PDP should be the planning authority, but of course we are also created depository because we need to track record of public land that had been converted or used or allocated. The other one is Prana Wellington. Thank you very much for your comment, because again you reminded us NSP is very key. We give ourselves that plan way back 2015, and interestingly, the issue is around implementation, because that plan is also took a lot of many years to deliver. Yeah. Senior Joyce here were involved. Many people worked on that NSP until it came to see the light of day many years thereafter. But that plan is very, very important because it gives us it was a kind of a synopsis of our country. What is it that we can do? Where can we get competitiveness? In which areas? Because it was designed alongside how the Asian country they were able to move from that level of development to newly industrial country. So NSP is a very important document, and therefore when it is we just leave it and not implement, we should question ourselves. Now the trick is NSP is not a document you pick and implement it. Its implementation begins by stepping it down through these other plans, and that is where we begin from the county level, CSP, and so forth. And we were saying, funnily enough, even once you arrive at the CSP, and I think we were discussing that with the senior Dr. over lunch hour, you can get a CSP done, but you will frustrate community because, again, it's not a must that you can be able to draw some project there and implement. You need, immediately after you have a CSP in place, step it down, prepare local plans, all the way up to sub-county level. And they will be everybody will be able to identify with that plan in terms of projects. Because the more you go down, the more detailed in terms of project for implementation. And that's how now a plan becomes a reference for budget. And you know, that is the same thing we are, and I'm happy you also linked that to CIDP. Because now CIDP is supposed to draw from CSP and come up with what for me I call a manifesto of a governor. For 5 years, which project is he going to implement? Those are contained in the CIDP. But we know the variation we are observing. Our politician, our political leader, they are not necessarily referring to a plan. I don't know whether we have a planner from Lamu here. Anybody from Lamu? You know, Lamu is the first county to deliver a county spatial plan. But, and so it was due for review, I think, last year, Monira. And what happened upon review of the same plan, very minimal was implemented out of that plan. Yet, the county has been spending. The usual budget allocation, it has been spent. Where do they get get their project from? It's a matter of politician or government official meeting and deciding where do we put this one, not necessarily referring to a plan. So I think that connection, the link between CSP and the CIDP is very, very important, and we should be able to look at that. Otherwise, I think, I think the last thing you also said, Wellington, is that there is a long notion that physical planning is the one expected to implement plan. That's the same thing applied to NSP. If you expect the Director General to implement NSP because she prepared, you wait forever. The projects that are there go directly to the agencies that are named there. And that's why I explained earlier, we have a toolkit, and it describes which agency, what do you expect from the Minister of Water? And that is done through sectoral plans. All sectors should prepare a plan derived from the various plans that we have in place, either NSP, CSP, and so forth. Thank you very much for that, for listening.
Thank you. I'm sure the people who had these concerns have been satisfied. Is that true? Is that true? Let's hear Carol for now.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Joyce. I think Kagema has helped me in also Abigail's question, but I'll add something on it. Yes, the first question was on a land tenure review from Planner Alando. If I got you right, you were stating that when land has to be allocated after planning and a survey, and the demarcation has already been done, does it not mean that survey has come before planning? Was that your question? No. Yes.
I was near, maybe I couldn't get Alando clearly. Did you say when we are advertising for planning jobs, a planning task, you find the planning and the advertisement comes with the plan, with the survey? Plan preparation and survey at the same time, instead of plan first and then survey comes later as an independent advertisement. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay, that's the question.
So how do we go about it?
At procurement level, at planning service procurement level. Okay. We're mixing that two.
Oh, okay. So your question is that a correct procedure? That is your question, isn't it? Is that okay? Okay, so my view is this. Probably because Section 12 says that land shall be only allocated after planning and survey, nobody has thought of demarcating the two. However, when I look at your question, I see the philosophical importance of them being separate. Reason being, what if you plan and the people reject? They do not want that use. So why did you even procure for survey? So procedurally, I think so that you don't plan with a vexed, product, that it has to be like this. I would agree that the law does not say you must procure together. So the correct practice would be plan first, and then after the plan has now been approved and gone through all the procedures and even approved at the assembly, then now you come and advertise for survey. I think that would be the correct procedure. Then there was the second question from Abigail. What is the National Land Commission doing, which Kagema has tried to answer? I would say legally this, Abigail, that this recovery of land and use of public land for the right thing is a requirement for all of us: surveyors, planners, lawyers, county attorneys, county assembly, valuers, and everybody. But because the mandate is with the National Land Commission, unfortunately the review of grants mandate only had 5 years. And therefore the commission has not been able to succeed through parliament, even though there has been a private motion by the minority leader, no, the majority deputy, I think the member of parliament for Malindi or something like that, to extend. But under the current NLC Act, section 5 and 6, NLC reserves residuary mandate to investigate all complaints on land which are anchored in Article 67 and Article 68. And therefore the county government or any Kenyan has a right to ask the National Land Commission to investigate any land grabbing. And also under HLI, if it happened before the new constitution, you can anchor it under HLI. If it is happened then, but it is still continuing, because you know when the offense has not been resolved, it just continues. You just anchor it under section 5 and 6. But the issue that is lacking is lack of information. Because when I interact even with the state public institution advocates, most of them always tell me, you know, NLC has not done this, has not. So what I would also propose as a return back to you, Abigail, and of course Planner Sindani is here and our chief is here, is as a county, you know, we are the ones in charge of planning. Let us have our inventory of public land first, and then we can identify whatever has been grabbed. And ADR is not taken away from anybody. A county can give notice that you were given this land, maybe you have not developed, you want to recover it. In fact, even without notice, the operation of the law says that if you don't comply with allocation, the land reverts back. Number 2, the county can give notice and say, you are occupying this land illegally, we are calling upon you to surrender. If they do not surrender, you now go to NLC. Make NLC work easy. You have already done your own investigation, because under protection of your own public assets under the PMFA and land management, you have all the authority to take care of public assets at the county level. And then give NLC the report, then NLC will come on the ground. The challenge always happens, because even Bungoma had that matter. The challenge always comes because NLC in the national parliament budget are not given money for investigation. Reason being, they do not know what Garissa wants to investigate, what Bungoma wants to investigate, what Mombasa wants to investigate. It is you who has the budget for investigation. Now it is like compulsory acquisition. The acquiring body has the budget. So you then tell NLC, come to the ground, advertise. If you remember in the old NLC under review, the body which had an issue would write to NLC, then the commission of Professor Swazuri would give you the list of requirements, then you deposit the money that is required for the commissioners to come on the ground. They advertise on the national newspaper of public circulation. They come and do a hearing and make a determination, and the determinations used to come out very fast. Cause a lot of hulabalu, but wamemaliza na wameenda. Then the final question was there any other question? I think there was just that one, but what I can add is that for planners, you know, the court has actually made a whole environment and planning court for you. Planning and you're not using it. The only thing is that you need to cooperate with Abigail, me, and many lawyers here, because sasa nyinyi hamjui kutengeneza your pleading. Sisi ndio tutatengeneza, nyinyi mtaleta the expert report. Sisi tuta unbundle and make an instrument called a pleading, a petition or a plaint. But to share with you, there is a case involving Moses Owino. It is in my presentation, where planners in Kisumu came together and challenged the ministry and the county government of Kisumu for using people who are not certified planners and failure to establish the county planning unit. Meaning KISIP can also self-help, come to LSK, we do PIL so that the counties can be compelled in their next budget to actually establish the planning unit and expand the county attorney office. Because even if you have 101 planning units, you'll not be able to enforce bila mawakili. Thank you.
That sounds like a sweet ending, but not until Tito talks.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Joyce. I had 8 questions, and it's the end of the day. I hope we'll finish strong, eh? Yeah. No, I think the first question I was asked was related to the database for urban farmers. I think, I see she's probably left. But we've been working very closely with the government to develop what we call the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Management Information System, KIAMIS. And this has been done across the entire country. Currently, we have almost 6.8 million farmers in Kenya registered in that system. And it includes all, in fact, if you go to the data, you go down to Kiambu, you'll get down right up to the ward, you'll get to the farmer, you'll know how much what they're keeping, what breeds of poultry, if they're doing kienyeji, they're doing layers, that information is there.